My name is Clara. I'm 27, a wedding event coordinator at a company in San Diego. From the outside, I probably look strong, confident, always in control. But the truth? It's a whole different story. I used to believe that family, especially my sister Emily, was my anchor. She was always the princess of the family, while I was just the diligent shadow standing by her side. I used to tell myself, as long as she's happy, I'm happy too. 3 months ago, Emily called to tell me she was engaged to Alex, a young CEO, charming, with a smile sweet as honey and those piercing blue eyes. I was over the moon when she asked me to be her maid of honor. I poured every ounce of my time and love into making her wedding perfect. I ordered her cake from Susie Cakes, her absolute favorite, booked the engagement photo shoot at La Jolla Cove, planned a dreamy beach bridal shower in Coronado, and threw her a bachelorette party in Palm Springs with a boho desert queen theme she was obsessed with. I even picked out her perfect white satin dress, a tasteful leg slit, a low back that was sexy yet classy. Every time she tried it on, I carefully fixed every fold, watched her smile in the mirror, and felt light as air. Finally, she was going to get her fairy tale ending. Then, just a week before the wedding, I got a text from Emily. "Clara, I've decided to go with someone else as maid of honor. I think it's best if you just enjoy the wedding as a guest." I went numb. My fingers tingled. My heart pounded so hard, I thought it might tear through my chest. I stared at my phone, eyes burning. I tried calling her, texting her. She ignored me. I even drove to her house, pounding on her door until my knuckles were raw. Nothing. Just a cold, echoing silence. I went home and collapsed on the couch, sobbing. My mom texted me a single line: "Don't make a scene, let your sister be at peace." In that moment, I felt smaller and more worthless than ever. I had given everything to make her wedding a perfect dream, and now I was discarded like I had never even existed. The next day, the whispers started. Friends and relatives at the rehearsal dinner murmured behind my back. Maybe Clara was jealous and got kicked out. She probably tried to steal the spotlight. Or, the way she looks at Alex, maybe something happened. Every word, every glance, every smirk twisted my gut like a knife. I used to dream of standing by her side, watching her walk down the aisle hand in hand with Alex, smiling proudly. Now, I was nothing but an unwanted spectator. I locked myself inside my apartment. I didn't eat, didn't sleep. I just drank cold coffee and stared at my phone. I curled up under a thin blanket, asking myself over and over, why? What did I do wrong? Somewhere in that fog, I remembered a vague detail. Weeks ago, I saw Emily texting secretly when Jason, Alex's best friend, called. Every time Jason came around, she'd avoid my eyes, her face tense, her voice shaky. I hadn't thought much of it then, chalking it up to wedding stress. But now, that memory cut into me like a cold blade. I started digging. I remembered she had borrowed my iPad during her trip to Seattle to finalize dress vendors. Maybe she forgot to log out of iCloud. I rummaged through my closet, pulled out the iPad, my heart slamming in my chest. My fingers trembled as I turned it on. In the photo album, I found them. Emily and Jason wrapped around each other in a hotel room, lips locked, bodies pressed so close, there was no mistaking it. There was a short video, too, Emily whispering, "Once Alex signs the asset transfer, we'll run away together." I dropped the iPad on the floor, clutching my head. I bit down hard on my lip, trying to stop the tears, but they streamed down anyway. And in that moment, I realized the real reason I'd been cast aside wasn't because I didn't fit. It was because Emily was terrified I'd uncover her secret and expose her in front of everyone. I stood up, feeling a cold rage rise inside me. All my love, all my sacrifices, paid back with betrayal, humiliation, and pain. I looked at myself in the mirror, red eyes, messy hair, but inside, I saw a new Clara, cold, hardened. I whispered to myself, enough. Right then, I didn't want to be the maid of honor anymore. I didn't want to be in any wedding photos, standing by her side. I wanted justice. I wanted everyone to see the real Emily, the real Jason, and even Alex. Was he really clueless? Or was he playing a bigger game I hadn't seen yet? I started planning. No more tears. No more curling up on the couch. I wanted to rise, strong and fearless. And most of all, I wanted to see Emily's face when her secrets blew up right there at the altar. I asked myself, did I have the courage to go all the way? Deep down, I already knew the answer. I had lost everything. There was nothing left to lose. I stayed up all night, eyes glued to the iPad, reading and rereading every message, every photo of Emily and Jason. Each glance felt like someone was ripping my heart open, but at the same time, that rage inside me kept growing, swallowing every last bit of fear. I finally saw it clearly. Emily didn't just betray Alex, she betrayed our family, and she betrayed me, the sister she once promised to always protect. I remembered all those times my mom praised Emily for being beautiful, accomplished, the perfect future wife, while I was just the invisible one, always hustling in the background. I had accepted that supporting role all my life, as long as she was happy. But now, one question kept drilling into my head. Did Alex know about this? Was he really a victim, or just another player in this twisted game? I started paying closer attention. Scrolling through Alex's Instagram, I noticed he kept checking in at fancy spots, rooftop bars and Gaslamp, Rancho Santa Fe golf courses, all these business lunches that felt off. Then, a comment on one of his posts from a private account. Just wait till the wedding day, you promised. The account was locked, but the message was clear enough. I also remembered the rehearsal dinner. Alex disappeared for almost an hour, claiming he had to call the liquor supplier urgently. But I had handled all the liquor arrangements myself. Why would he need to make any calls? When he returned, his face was flushed, eyes darting around. I noticed Emily glaring at him, her lips pressed tight. Back then, I thought it was just pre-wedding stress. But now, it all looked different. I texted Mia, my best friend, also one of the bridesmaids. Mia had always been close with Emily, but she still had a soft spot for me. I sent her a few photos of Emily and Jason, asked her to keep them safe, and help me investigate further. Mia was shocked. Clara, if this is real, your sister is messed up. But are you sure Alex isn't part of it too? She was right. The more I thought about it, the more suspicious Alex seemed. I decided to check his emails. I knew he usually left his laptop in his home office at Emily's place, and his password? Childishly simple, his dog's name plus his birth year. I asked Mia to drop by and deliver the bridesmaid dress to distract Emily. Meanwhile, I slipped into Alex's office. My heart pounded so loud it echoed in my ears, every breath catching in my throat. I turned on the laptop and typed in Buddy 1990. It worked. My stomach twisted as I scrolled through his inbox. Tons of financial documents, transfer statements, offshore account contracts, emails from a lawyer named Greg. One email read, After the wedding, the assets will transfer as planned. Then I saw it, an attachment labeled Prenup Final Draft. I clicked it open. It clearly stated, after the wedding, all of Emily's shares in the family company would automatically transfer to Alex if they divorced. I felt dizzy. So Emily wasn't just cheating on Alex. Alex was scheming to steal my family's assets. I felt like I was sinking into quicksand, every new discovery pulling me deeper. I let go of the keyboard, swallowing hard. My mind was spinning. Emily betraying Alex with Jason, Alex planning to scam Emily, and Jason, maybe he was using Emily to milk her for money too. A whole spider web of lies and manipulation. And all this time, I was just another pawn. At that moment, I had two choices: stay quiet and pretend I knew nothing, or blow everything up at the wedding. I wondered, if I did this, how devastating would the consequences be? Was I strong enough to handle it? But then I remembered those disgusted looks during the rehearsal dinner, remembered Emily's cold, heartless text, remembered my mother, who always took Emily's side, who never once believed in me, never protected me. I bit down on my lip. Maybe this was my one and only chance to stop being the invisible shadow once and for all. I sent all the evidence to Mia, telling her, keep a safe copy. If I disappear or something happens to me, send it to the press. Mia's hands were shaking. Clara, are you serious? This isn't just drama anymore. This is actual crime. I only nodded, eyes fixed on the email screen. I'm sure. That night, I printed out all the text messages, photos of Emily and Jason, and the asset transfer agreements. I stacked them into a folder labeled For the Guests. Looking at that thick pile of documents, I felt stronger than I ever had in my life. I was no longer the faded Clara hiding behind the scenes. I was stepping onto center stage, shining a blinding light on their truths, on the day they thought would be the grandest of their lives. I wondered, what would they do when the truth came out? Would Emily beg me for forgiveness? Would Alex try to talk his way out? Or would they turn on each other, clawing for survival? I pressed my lips together, letting out a small laugh. Whatever happened, I wasn't stopping. I was about to shatter their fairy tale dream right at the altar. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. The morning of the wedding, the air at the oceanfront mansion was so tense it felt like it might snap. I arrived early, clutching the folder with all the evidence, tucked neatly into a large champagne-colored tote Emily had once gifted me. I wore a navy satin dress, polished enough not to draw suspicion, yet strong enough that no one dared approach me. I saw Emily sitting in the makeup room, surrounded by her giggling bridesmaids. She was beaming, but I noticed the exhaustion in her eyes, the faint lines desperately masked by layers of foundation. When our eyes met in the mirror, she froze. I watched her swallow hard, her lips trembling slightly. I gave her a small, calm nod. She immediately turned away, pretending to fix her hair. One of the bridesmaids, Kelly, whispered loudly, "Why is Clara even here? Wasn't she booted from Maid of Honor?" I heard every word, but I just smiled. For the first time in my life, their petty whispers couldn't touch me. Alex walked in, dressed in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo, crisp white tie, looking like he'd just stepped off a GQ cover. He leaned down and kissed Emily's forehead, whispering something that made her giggle. But his eyes darted to me for a brief second. We locked eyes. I saw a flicker of suspicion in his gaze before he looked away, slipping back into his confident facade. I retreated to a corner, my heart hammering like a war drum in my chest. I wondered, could I really keep my cool until the very end? Around noon, guests started arriving. Luxury cars lined the driveway, Porsches, Bentleys, Teslas, and a gleaming white Rolls-Royce. I saw my mother in a pastel silk dress, walking with a group of wealthy friends, smiling brightly while scanning each guest like she was sizing them up for auction. When she saw me, she just gave a slight, dismissive smirk and looked right past me, as if I didn't exist. "You'll never make me as proud as Emily," her voice echoed in my mind. I clenched the handle of my bag tighter. The ceremony began. Soft music played, the seaside lawn glowed under the afternoon sun, adorned with hundreds of white peony arrangements, an intricate golden backdrop, and rows of gold-plated chairs in perfect symmetry. I spotted Jason sneaking into the front row. His eyes wandered, champagne glass in hand, constantly flicking back toward the altar. My stomach twisted. He was the final piece of this filthy puzzle. Emily emerged on her father's arm, her sparkling white satin gown trailing nearly 10 feet behind her across the grass. Applause erupted, phones clicked furiously. I watched her face, meticulously made up, her smile stiff as porcelain. With every step she took toward the altar, I could see her shoulders quivering, her lips twitching. Maybe she was wondering, would Clara actually do something? Was she crazy enough to ruin this day? Alex stood there, hands clasped, gazing at Emily with a sweet look that now made my skin crawl. As she approached, he leaned forward and whispered in her ear. I saw Emily's face drain of color in an instant. Her eyes flew wide open, her lips parted. "What did you say?" she mouthed, trembling. I took a step forward, my heart threatening to explode. I heard Alex hiss, "I know everything about Jason, about your plan. And guess what? I only married you to steal your family's money. Congratulations, sweetheart." Emily stumbled, her hands crushing the bouquet so hard, petals began to fall. Guests started whispering, confused. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath. This was it. I pulled the folder from my bag, striding straight toward the front, ignoring my mother's horrified stare, the bridesmaids shaking in terror. "I really wasn't going to speak, Emily," I said loudly, my voice cutting through the stunned silence. "But you dragged me into this swamp yourself." I held the folder up high. "This is for all your lies." I started pulling out photo after photo, printed texts, asset transfer agreements. The crowd erupted, gasps, curses, glasses shattering on the ground. Jason shot up, face ghost white, trying to bolt, but guests blocked him. Emily collapsed to her knees at the altar, eyes vacant, hands trembling violently. Alex stepped back, arms folded, laughing in pure contempt. I scanned the crowd, my breath ragged. Years of being overlooked, ignored, brushed aside. Today, I ripped every mask off. I wondered, would anyone ever trust Emily again? Would my mother ever dare to meet my gaze? Adrenaline flooded every inch of my body, and I knew this was just the beginning. In that moment, the once luxurious lawn turned into a war zone. Guests were screaming, phones flashed nonstop. Some people even went live on Instagram right then and there. The bridesmaids clutched their faces, eyes wide in terror. A few guests rushed toward Emily, but she crumpled to the ground, her white gown now stained and filthy, the bouquet tossed far away. Jason was dragged back, his face ghostly pale, sputtering, "No, she forced me. It wasn't my idea." But no one cared anymore. Every eye was on me, the one who had always been just the faint shadow in the family. I lifted the folder higher. "This is only the beginning," I shouted, my voice ringing out clear and unwavering. I switched on the projector I'd connected to the main stage screen. One by one, images of Emily and Jason wrapped around each other flickered into view. Then came the sweet text messages. When he signs the transfer, we'll run away and start over. The crowd erupted. Some guests sobbed, others screamed curses. A woman in the front row hurled her champagne glass at the altar, shards and champagne exploding everywhere. I saw my mother clutching her head, her face as pale as marble. Alex stood off to the side, arms folded, a smug grin cutting across his face. When people looked at him, he only shrugged. I guess the princess isn't so innocent after all. In that instant, I realized he had played an even bigger game, using Emily to secure the assets, then publicly humiliating her once everything was locked down. I shivered. He was vicious, but undeniably brilliant. Emily crawled toward me, clutching the hem of her shredded gown, sobbing, "Clara, please, I'm begging you, don't destroy everything." I looked down at her, seeing the black mascara streaking down her face, her tears soaking into the grass. "What do you even have left to lose, Emily?" I asked, my voice dry and hollow. "You chose Jason. You betrayed Alex. You pushed me away because you were afraid I'd uncover your lies. You killed your own fairy tale with your own hands." Jason collapsed onto the grass, trembling. A few guests pinned him down as he babbled, "Emily promised me. She said we'd be rich. I didn't want this." I took a deep breath and glanced at my mother. She was wobbling, supported by my aunt. When her eyes met mine, she just shook her head, her lips moving soundlessly. For the first time ever, she looked small, fragile. I wondered, had she ever really loved me, or was I just the spare part she never wanted? Police sirens wailed in the distance. Private security began forming barricades around the estate. Alex stepped down from the altar and walked toward me, his face eerily calm. "Clara, you could have stayed out of this and just watched them destroy each other," he said, softly, just for me. I shivered. "But where's the fun in that, right?" He smirked, gave me a slight bow, and turned away. I held my breath. Part of me felt sickened, but another part of me felt a wild, electric thrill. He was right. If I'd stayed silent, Emily and Jason would have torn each other apart on their own, and Alex would have walked away with everything. But I couldn't. I couldn't stomach another second of silence or submission. The police reached Jason first. One officer started questioning Emily urgently. Jason was handcuffed, his head hanging low as he sobbed. Alex quietly disappeared, slipping into a waiting Bentley. I watched him go, a strange mix of relief and emptiness swelling inside me. I turned back to Emily. She sat on the ground, her dress mangled, hair in wild tangles. The bridesmaids huddled around her, tossing a veil over her head to block the relentless stares. I stood still. The chaos around me blurred. I didn't hear the guests' shouts, didn't feel the cold ocean breeze whipping across my face. I only heard my heartbeat, strong, steady. Did I regret it? The answer was immediate. No, I didn't regret it. I had shattered the shadow they forced me into for 27 years. I had stood up and claimed my right to exist. My eyes landed on the once pristine white altar, now splattered with mud, champagne, and scattered petals. I let out a small laugh. The fairy tale wedding Emily had dreamed of her whole life had become her stage of public disgrace. A staff member approached cautiously. "Ms. Clara, do you need a private car, or should we have security escort you off the property?" I shook my head. "No need. I can walk myself." I turned, stepping down onto the lawn, my heels crushing the wilted petals. Every step felt heavy but firm. Behind me, I heard Emily wailing, her cries carried away by the ocean wind. I didn't look back. I didn't need to anymore. I walked down the stone path leading to the parking lot, feeling like I had just stepped out of a nightmare. The late afternoon sun poured over my shoulders, the salty ocean wind whipped across my face, but I didn't feel cold anymore. For the first time in years, maybe ever, I felt truly free. Then my phone buzzed. A flood of messages and missed calls lit up the screen, from my mother, a few relatives, even guests whose names I barely remembered. I opened one from my mom. "Clara, have you lost your mind? You destroyed everything. Do you know how hard Emily worked to prepare for today?" I let out a bitter laugh. Hard? Who had it harder than me? The one stripped of every effort, humiliated in front of family and friends, sacrificed to keep my sister's pristine image alive? I had stayed silent for far too long. For the first time in 27 years, I no longer carried the weight of the perfect sister, no longer felt crushed by my mother's disdainful gaze, no longer heard the toxic whispers slicing at my back. I was free. A taxi pulled up in front of me. The driver looked at me, startled. You okay? Should I call the police?" I shook my head slightly and slipped into the back seat. "Just drive." The car rolled forward, the blue ocean slowly fading behind me, along with the shattered wedding, the lies, and the old version of me. I glanced at the rearview mirror, saw my tangled hair, my smeared lipstick, but my eyes had never shone this bright. I let out a laugh, my voice hoarse but solid, powerful. My phone rang nonstop. A message from Mia. "Clara, are you okay? Everyone's losing it. Your expo video is trending nationwide. People are calling you a hero." I leaned my head against the window, eyes closed. A tear slipped down my cheek, but this time, it wasn't a tear of despair. It was a tear of release. The press might come after me, my family might disown me, old friends might turn their backs. And that was okay. I was ready. I was willing to face whatever came. Because I had finally found myself. I was Clara, the overlooked sister, the one erased from the wedding, the one they mocked and cast aside. Now I stood on my own 2 feet, armed with nothing but the truth. I thought about Emily. She might lose everything, her reputation, her place in society. Jason would go to prison. Alex, the cold strategist, would eventually be investigated, even if he believed he had everything under control. I didn't expect Emily's forgiveness. I didn't need my mother to understand. I didn't want pity from old friends. I only wanted the truth. And now I had it. The taxi stopped along a coastal street, the place where I had once dreamed of opening my own event planning studio. I stepped out, holding my torn-up folder, lifting my head toward the burning red sunset sky. A sharp wind blew past, salty and cold, but I spread my arms wide. For the first time, I asked myself, now what? Where do I go? What do I do? And for the first time, the question didn't scare me, because now I knew I could go anywhere, do anything, without permission, without hiding behind anyone. I smirked, answering myself, I'll live, really live. As night slowly swallowed the horizon, I walked forward, leaving behind every filthy, bitter piece of my past, every toxic tie. I stepped into the future, one that might still hold hundreds of battles, but I would fight them as my true self. Clara. No longer the disgraced maid of honor, no longer the shadow behind her sister. I was Clara, the woman rewriting her own story.